Gardener Handbook as an online interactive tool. Let Kathleen switch to the next slide.
Nicole, can I share my screen so that I can advance the slides, or okay. Okay, there we go. All right.
Thank you. So what we're going to do is give you an overview of the Extension Gardener Handbook. We're going to talk about all the wonderful new options and how much richer a tool it is now that we're working with Top Hat and it's an online platform. Then we're going to talk some about Top Hat itself and how that works, and then show you how you can get engaged if you're interested in moving forward with us. So, as Nicole told you, my name is Lucy Bradley. I work at NC State University as an extension specialist in consumer and community horticulture, and I'm a partner in this project.
And pleasure to meet everybody. My name is Ali Kaba. I'm the National Account Exec at Top Hat that's been spearheading this project on the Top Hat side, working with Kathleen and Lucy over the last almost a year now.
And I'm Kathleen Moore, work with NC State University, and I am the project coordinator for this project.
And I'm Cara Carleton. I'm a county coordinator with University of Idaho, and I've been working in the project in Top Hat since October.
So the Extension Gardener Handbook is a text that was written in 2018, and it is a national award-winning text that has over 728 pages of full color text and graphics. It has 21 chapters and 8 appendices. And these chapters and appendices cover research-based information on landscaping and gardening that answers all the questions that a reader might have. When we first set about the project of recreating the Extension Gardener Handbook, some of the feedback that we received from agents was that during the training, the volunteer trainings, volunteers would leave the training and they felt great about the information that they received in the training, and they felt like they had really great gardening knowledge. But as far as transferring that into being a volunteer and actually answering questions from the public on a hotline or at a help desk or at an event, there were challenges there when someone comes in and says, what's this bug, or what do I spray? What do I spray on this? They felt they weren't very confident with answering those questions. And so we really took that to heart when creating text, and not only having great rich gardening information in there, but also giving a nod to the fact that folks are going to need to use this information and apply it as volunteers. So we develop case studies that are throughout the handbook. They focus on IPM, integrated pest management techniques, for answering questions. So walking folks through a problem, how do you identify what you're working with, and then how do you use IPM and diagnostic techniques to help a client. In each of the chapters, there are frequently asked questions. So these are kind of those common topics. We polled our agents and asked them, what are people coming into your office and asking about, so that kind of those main topics would be questions would be covered. We have a chapter that is dedicated to diagnostics, as well as an entire appendix. So walking folks through what are those steps, and then in the appendix we have extensive diagnostic tables on all the gardening subjects that help volunteers identify what is the problem, what symptoms are you seeing, what could be the cause, and then what are some of those IPM management techniques that can be used to address that issue. There are lots of graphics and charts throughout the handbook, and there's over 1,000 color images. So this is the handbook as you would buy it in hard copy, and it's a great resource and has a lot of great information. But we're really fortunate to have partnered with Top Hat, because we can now not only share the content of this handbook and this text, but we're able to expand on a lot of the features and make it even more powerful a tool. So the handbook has been translated into Top Hat. Everything I just mentioned is all in the platform, but we're also able to add in video. So every chapter has a video or two or three, and as folks are reading through the text, there might be a topic that they come across, and they can watch a short video. Engaging folks as they're reading. Throughout the chapter, there are about 15 check your knowledge questions. So as you read a section or two, there's the ability to check your students' knowledge, and the questions will auto grade. You'll get to see the grades and see if your students are really getting the information, or if there might be an area or a subject that you would need to go over again because they weren't really getting it. Some of the questions are, just like multiple choice or true false, and some of our questions actually have photographs, so folks can look at photographs and answer a question. We have a glossary in the back of our hard copy of our handbook, but with Top Hat, we're able to use a rollover glossary, which is great. So you just roll your mouse over the word and the definition pops up. All of the botanical names and common names in the chapters are linked to our plant toolbox. I believe Lucy put the toolbox URL in the chat, but our plant toolbox has thousands of plant profiles with detailed descriptions of the plants, many photographs and other data. So when folks are reading about a plant, they can easily do more research or get a little more in depth by looking at the link to the plant toolbox. Top Hat also allows students to highlight text. I think Ali will show you that in just a moment, but just like being in a classroom and having your highlighter, it allows the students to select things that are important to them when they want to come back and review. The other really powerful tool is that all of our images are cited, and many of our images have what are called Creative Commons licenses. And what that means is that other people can use the images. So the images are all cited where a Creative Commons license is used. We link you to the original source, so you can go maybe get a different size, look at it, and you would be able to use many of the images from our handbook in your own presentations, flyers, newsletter articles, blog posts, on your websites. Really, it gives you a lot of flexibility in using the images in other ways. So I will turn it over to Ali.
Thanks, Kathleen. I feel like you do a better job of pitching the whole book than I do at this point, to be honest. So I'll stick to the Top Hat stuff. So really where we wanted to fit in with this amazing project and the amazing material that Kathleen and Lucy and the team at NC State put together was really take that to a next level, where we can throw in a lot of active learning pieces and complement the book to provide more of a holistic experience for students taking this course, where as much of the grading before, during, after class, after lecture piece can all be in one place, where we're really driving that student engagement up. And there are a lot of tools that I'll be able to walk you through shortly that will show you how you can really bring that to life. And at the same time, driving the costs down, or not exploiting the costs, because we understand that these are in very rural areas, and some of the students that are taking these classes, and we want to make sure that we're always cognizant of the fact that, especially nowadays with pandemic and current situations, now we want to make sure that it is cost effective. And the last piece, you do get like a quasi learning management solution on the back end of Top Hat to help you with some of the administrative and grading tasks that would be used to really make more of a full experience for you as a lead or the coordinator or the instructor to manage the students being invited into the class. So if you look at everything that Top Hat can do, it really is I would say an all-in-one teaching solution set up before, during, and after class. And that's all kind of stemmed around having access to insights and data at your fingertips to really provide and build that connection with your students. And this is scalable. So regardless of the size of students you have in your cohort, this is effective from 5 students up to 2,000, 3,000 students. That number really is relative at this point. So when I go through the course with you, you'll see the chapter and the textbook is organized in before, during, and after class modalities. So the before class would be like the textbook itself, the chapter that they would be reading, where the questions would be in there, all the images would be in there, auto-graded questions would be in there in one spot for them as a continuous scroll. During the class, there are a number of activities that you could bring into if you have a live lecture, whether that's like synchronous online or in person, where you can have live discussions, presenting your slides, presenting your presentation, doing polling, quizzes, discussions, simulations, all in the same spot during class. And then after class is where we would have the homework assignment, or if you want to do some quizzes, or if you want to do like an open book test, all of that again, same place. And then all of that kind of ties into these weekly insights and activity reports that would be automatically sent to you. So you'd be able to get a pulse check on how well the students in your class are doing, how many of them completed the work, are there areas that they were struggling with that you may want to reach out to get them some more help if you want to get them some help there, and just kind of know where your students are all throughout the course. And so that's really where we've been focusing on. And then with COVID, it's really just, as you can imagine, amplified this for us. We were in a unique position where we were now able to help transition faculty and courses and programs over to synchronous or asynchronous delivery online. And so really that's kind of where we focus on. So that access there, giving the tools that you would need to run that regardless of the modality. Second is having it all in one place. So you really only have to go to one spot to get your textbook, get your questions, get your presentation, all that in one place. So students are all organized as well. And then you're able to get feedback from your students and insights on how well they are doing. And again, it's all as a feedback loop where you are able to customize and make changes to the material to really cater something to your students, which I'll show you how to do in a little bit as well. I think it's actually the next slide. Yeah, all right. Okay. I think this is it. Perfect. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, awesome. Fantastic. Okay, so when you log into Top Hat for the first time, it will take you into something that looks like this. This is an example of a master course or just a course in general. You'll notice everything is organized on the left-hand side in the content tree, where you'll see all of the respective chapters that we went through earlier, and each one is nested into its own folder. And I'll expand and I'll show you kind of what goes into each one. But all of that is there organized on the left side. So now if I want to choose a specific topic or a specific chapter, in this case, I'm choosing insects. You'll notice there are a couple other items within here. So the first piece that I was selected on earlier, that's your chapter itself. That's what they would be expected to read. That gives them the information that they need on insects. Then we also have a bunch of instructor resources that are available for you as well. that are all nested and organized right in here. So the quizzes, homework, reader's guide, from the instructor's perspective. So of course, this would be supplementary for you. If you choose to share this with your students, again, that's up to you, but meant to be more of a guide and support for you. And then we have the quiz in here as well. So we have questions already set up. So if you wanted to create a quiz, we make it super easy for you to build one, and I'll show you how we do that in a moment as well. And then there are a bunch of other supplementary materials that we have in a Google Drive folder that would be shared with you, which are the slides and some of the other resources for you. So again, if you have any questions about this as I'm going through it, if you want to put them in the chat or raise your hand. I don't know if I'll see it if you raise a hand, but please ask me as we go through it, because again, this is all for you. So if you have specific questions that you want to see, please let me know. All right, so I'm going to first go through the chapter itself. So here on the right side, you'll notice there's a full screen mode here. So from the student's perspective, as they're reading and they open up the chapter, they're gonna notice two things. First, they're able to access this on any of their devices. So their laptop, their tablet, or their mobile device. And it'll then just be optimized for the real estate that they have to work with. And believe it or not, there are a number of people that we've been seeing that have been using this so far that really like it on the tablets, because it's not so much they're sitting at the desk, but they still have a little bit more of a interactive screen to kind of play with and look at. And the second thing you'll notice is the index on the left side. So this is like your kind of keep yourself organized. You can jump in between certain parts of the chapter very quickly. Now, from the student's perspective, again, as I continue to read, continue to scroll through the specific chapter, a couple things that you'll notice here. So these are some of my notes and my notes that I've been making over since I've been reading this. And let's say I want to make my own section of notes here. I can go in and make my little highlight, as you would typically make your highlights with a highlighter, and I can make my own little notebook there. And you'll see I just have my own little list of that I can scroll through, and I can jump to certain parts of the book directly from my notebook on the left side. And as I continue to scroll through, you'll see here I have an example of one of those auto-graded style questions. The purpose of these questions are meant to be more of a, if you think of Bloom's taxonomy level 1 and 2, these ones are meant to be more so on the easier side, because we want them to quickly validate that they understood what they just read before jumping to the next section. And there is an option for them to get feedback as well as they go through and answer the questions. And we talked about the hover over glossary. So that's kind of what it looks like in practice. And all the images are, I can attest to this one because I helped to do this on this project. They're all the high resolution images that we have access to here. So all of them, as you zoom in, you'll be able to see it in very clear quality, which I love because there are some really cool pictures in here. And so that's kind of the idea. So it's no longer like pages anymore. It's more of like just a constant scroll for them, where they would have a bite-sized piece of text, break to add some more questions for them to check for understanding. You may have a block in there for a video, which I'm going to get to because I want to show you what that one looks like. And here we go. So one thing to note here about the videos. So we have, Top Hat has a partnership with YouTube. So any videos that are already in here, or if you have your own videos that you would like to add in here as well, they're all able to directly play inside the page. So a couple things are going to happen. First, no ads are going to play. So that's already part of that partnership. And the second thing is it plays directly in here. So as you can see, clearly it's playing right in the page. If I go full screen, I can go full screen. If I want to go to YouTube, I can. But also I am able to, it doesn't take me down that little rabbit hole of like other questions that, other videos that would normally come up after this video has been played to kind of take you down that rabbit hole. It only focuses on the one that they need to watch, and then you continue to go through and watch and then read the rest of the material.
Ollie, a question came in about if people could modify the text for their state or their county or wherever, and then would it be possible for them to export it into a printed document?
Okay, cool. So the answer to yes, short answer. Let me just get out of this mode. There you go. Okay, so to answer the first question, so all of this, it's like a back-end thing for us. We just turn on the ability to export as a PDF. So as a standard, it basically just like renders this into a PDF that you can then download and print if you wanted to print, or like whoever has access to the material is able to do that from the student side. And when it comes to making modifications, you know, there's a little edit button on the right side. Sorry, let me just do that again. So here on the right side, there is this edit button up here. So when I click on edit, this is it's kind of like your Google Doc. I guess anything can be changed. And when I mean anything, I mean like anything. I can go in and I can delete these if I want to. I can delete the objectives if I want to. I can throw in my own video so you have the option to type in your own text, whatever you want. You can copy paste if you have some of the other programs we had, they had their own little mini handbook that they wanted to like merge with this handbook because they have some stuff that's specific to their state. That's a project that we're working on with them to blend the two together. And once you do that, that version becomes like your version. So this would be like a generic start. Then once you start to customize and make changes to it, that will be preserved as like your version of this handbook, which can then be used and you can iterate as you continue to go through with it to make it more unique to your region. Does that make sense? Does that help to answer that first question? Okay. Then the second piece is adding in your own stuff on top of just content, because again, this is all meant to be very interactive for your students and fully customizable. It's really where we like to play and differentiate ourselves. So you'll notice on the left side of the page, there's a little plus sign that kind of follows me around everywhere I go. Okay, so this plus sign is your interactive toolbar. Okay, now I'm going to spend a couple minutes here going through each one so you can see the capabilities of what this can really do. So the first one is a question. So let's say you wanted to add in some of your own questions inside this page for your students. So here are all the different question types that you have access to. Let me just zoom in here a bit. Okay, so pretty much all of them are auto-graded except the long answer. So if you wanted them to give you like a essay or something like that, that would not be auto-graded. But if you want to throw in like a sorting question, click on target's pretty cool. It's like you put an image there on the as the question, and the students have to click on a specific part of the image, and all that data shows up like a heat map in the class in real time. It's a really good visual. Matching, straightforward, fill in the blank, straightforward, multiple choice. You can even do some stuff with videos, graphing, file submission. Not all would be relevant to this subject, but again, you do have the ability to pick and choose what types of questions you would like to add in here. If you have your own existing set of questions, what we would do is we would import those questions and have them recreated for you. in your course. So then you, if you wanted to like pull some of those questions inside and not have to recreate them, that's your import here. And then you can just go through and like we would kind of create like a folder that'll say questions or something like that. And then when you open that up, you'll see these questions here, and you can then just pick and choose which one you want to import. Let's say I want to import these two. And now in the span of, I don't know, 2 seconds, I was able to throw in my own questions in addition to like in this new version of this text. Okay, now video. So we have, as I mentioned, a partnership with YouTube and with Vimeo. So if I say YouTube insects, let's go with that. Sure, let's just say this is it. So really this could apply to any video. So once I find the video that I want, I go to the URL up at the top, copy this, and then paste the link right in here. And now I've embedded that video directly in that page. And then of course you just want to make your citations. You can put a little caption in here if you want to do that, or whatever you want them to know, like give the recognition to, so YouTube. And then that's the link, I guess, if they want it there. Okay. Next one would be a picture. So if you want to add in your own images, it's literally just like a drag and drop in. If you want to have discussions in here as a way to have a dialogue going with your students. So like if you want them to apply some of the material in like an open-ended way, you can have discussions directly inside the text. Table, pretty straightforward, and iframe. So if you wanted to embed like a website inside this website, it's kind of like, I'll show you. Let's see if this works. No. So non-copywritten material. So I guess YouTube doesn't allow us to do that. But if I had Wikipedia, for example, it's pretty straightforward, but there you go. So like I can embed the web page inside my page. So as a, like if you had an article or something like that specific to this topic, you can embed that page that you want them to look at directly inside. So you're basically minimizing the number of places that the students need to go to access the material. That's the idea. So that's the customization and interactive elements that can be added into the platform. I'll pause here for a second before I move on to the next part if there are any questions about any of this.
Ali, there was one question that came up in the chat box about embedding video and permissions from creators, or what is the agreement or the Creative Commons in this situation?
Okay, so first one being credit for videos that get added in here that are on, let's say, YouTube that we select, that you choose to add in here. Would that be the use case? And then citing that? Is that?
Basically, yes. If you just want to just briefly talk on the Creative Commons with information from YouTube, as long as we cite that within the material.
Okay. Right. So as it stands with the videos and images that are already in there, as it's priced out now, it's all compliant with all of the copyright from YouTube, Creative Commons, etc. Now, if you make any modifications to the state of the book that it's in now, as long as we are not changing the price or charging more for what you've added into that specific book, then you won't have to worry about your own citations for any of the stuff that you're using, because there's no there's no incremental cost on the book itself that has been published in that state, because the whole project is meant to be customized. In some cases where, and I'll give you an example of one where, let's say, let's just use Kara's example here. So let's say her program wanted to develop its own version of this text and have like a like their state's specific material, and then we publish something else on top of, separate from this. Then it would have to go through its own copyright, its own citations, which we would take from Creative Commons. And then the videos that are added in there would have to be like their own videos that they've developed over the years. I didn't want to kind of get into that, but it's a separate conversation that we can have if anybody wants to have that conversation. But really, when it comes to making minor changes to it, replacing videos here and there, you won't have to worry about any of the copyright for any of that content, as long as they're on like verified sources on YouTube. We kind of give you that control where you can go in and customize as much as you want. I hope that answers your question. Okay.
I believe it did.
So it did, okay, great. So in addition to all of the material being in one spot, there is also a gradebook on the back end that is a very robust way that we're able to kind of manage the students and their progress throughout the program. So it will track everything that's auto-graded within the text itself will all show up here in the gradebook once the students, one, you have students in here, and then two, they start to complete some of the work. And then you are also able to manage the students effectively as well by easily adding students into your course. So if you have a list of email addresses for the students that are signing up for your program, let's see here. And you want to add this specific student and then send an invite, they will get an invite that will look something like this. So the name of the course would change, and that's usually pretty specific to the state or the county. And there's a specific course code that they have there. They click this link here, it'll take them to our page to create an account or register for the course. And then they also have all of the instructions that they would need on how to download the app, how to get signed up. Again, the code there, very specific for them. They know exactly what they need to do to get registered for the course. And there also is support that we provide to both you and the students in case there are any issues with getting access to the course. There was one. Ruth, do you mind elaborating a bit on interactive activities?
Maybe in the interest of time, we should keep
Sure.
moving. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, that's the demo that I wanted to walk everybody through. So I'll stop my share here and we can flip back.
Okay. Well, in addition to all of the resources that are available on Top Hat and that are a part of the book, we also have a number of instructor resources to support. So this is kind of a smorgasbord of some of the different ones that are available, but we have, homework assignments thought out that are relevant to the chapter. We have a reader's guide that allows people to use them as a tool as they go through the chapter to stay on course and make sure they're getting the key points that are important. And there's quizzes, and both the reader's guide and quizzes also have matching answers that go with that. We have slides we have one set of slides that are designed to be the intro slides as students are walking into the classroom, kind of like what you see when you go to the movie theater, right? So you've got kind of quiz and answer about what happened last week. You have teasers in there about what you're going to be covering today. It's an opportunity to introduce some of the structure of extension. So who is extension leadership? This is a picture. This is the slide organization tool. So each one of these is a separate slide. So 3 rows of 4 slides that would run through and give people a reason to get there early and get situated and just another way to share information with them. Then we also have slides that were prepared for the training. These are designed to be about an hour long because the goal is that you would have students read the lecture before they, read the book before they come. They would participate in this lecture for an hour, and then the rest of the time for the class would be spent on those interactive activities that Ruth was talking about. So we have for each chapter 3 to 6 different activities that are organized to inspire students to use and organize the information and to own it in a wholly different way than they would if they're just listening to the instructor talk. So they have cards that they manipulate and organize. They have just a variety of different types of activities. Then
and a quick shout out to Mike Maddox.
Definitely. Thank you, Mike Maddox and Susan Mayer for their great inspiration in doing these hands-on activities. Mike was the driving force behind kind of transforming Master Gardener classes to flipped classrooms, and have been very generous in supporting this project as well. Thank you, Kathleen. Get on a roll. Okay, so just kind of a quick summary of what we're talking about. So the students get the book, a digital version of the book for life. Their tuition pays for them to have access to that, that interactive tool. Instructors get access to the book, but also to all the teaching resources that we talked about, the PowerPoints, the directions for the activities, the homework assignments, quizzes, exams, all of that. And they get access to all of the educational support that comes from Top Hat. And this can be used in face-to-face classes. It could be used in blended classes where some of the classes are face-to-face and some is online. It can be used in online synchronous classes where everybody's doing it at the same time, or online asynchronous classes where people do it at their own pace. And then it can also be done for just an individual to go through at their own pace. The cost is $55 per student, and instructors are free, and all the instructional material is free or is covered by that $55 fee. For us, that's an awesome deal. Our textbook is $60, which is just the book. So this is the book plus all of this for $55. So we're really excited to be able to offer this to you. I'm going to pass it off to Ali I think for the next slide.
Yeah, so as I think the biggest piece here with everything that is built into this amazing book, the piece that really kind of makes it your own is that you can really edit anything that you want to change, modify the order of the chapters, the numbering of the chapters, like little things like that. But then on a macro scale, being able to go in and really blend a lot of your own material to make it unique to your specific state and the conditions that you have within that region. So that's really where we're able to kind of take that to the next step. And just one thing that I do want to make clear, a lot of coordinators that we work with tend to take a iterative approach to the way that they do this. So it's not an expectation that when you start that you would have to have it all 100% done before you can start using something like this. Faculty typically, or like instructors or coordinators would typically have like one course that is live with the students as it's being used, and you're able to make changes to it and then push those changes out to the students as it's live, but also have like what we call a sandbox course where you can make future improvements and development updates to the material for future session or future cohorts that you would like to have that go live for. So you always have the ability to kind of customize on the fly. And then this is answering, I think Patricia had this question, and for those of you that do have any questions about the support, again, huge differentiator in this space for you. So you would get partnered with a dedicated instructional designer on our team who would be working with you to, one, make sure you feel comfortable knowing how to navigate through the platform, but two, also being able to make those changes, modifications, adding students to the course, inviting students to register for the class, making sure students are enrolled in the class, assigning material, getting feedback, all that good stuff. And then we're also support for anything that students may want to ask, any issues for them joining, whatever that looks like. You have the support available to you, and the times are all there. Yeah, huge level of support there for you. And just to answer the question for Sharon, there are no upfront costs to develop a book for a state program. No.
Okay, I will take over here as I have been working with Top Hat since September, learning the program since October, and I started teaching this in a course beginning January 4th. So in Idaho, when I came into my county coordinator position, the current way we taught a course was all in-person lectures, 6 hours a week, where faculty would come up here, we would sit in the class and listen, and that was really it. We all know we've been working on modifying that model to deliver it in a better way. In Idaho, we didn't have any digital content prior to COVID or when COVID hit. And so I felt a little lost at that point. My location is 2 hours from campus, so faculty usually charges us fees to travel. And I personally do not have what many states call an agent or an educator in my area. So I'm trying to work part-time, be an educator, manage plant clinic, manage my master gardeners, and teach these courses for public and teach courses for master gardeners. And in Idaho, we have a handbook that is about a 3-inch thick handbook, basically. It's not really curriculum based, and I find that a bit of a challenge to teach from. So how is it going? We now have, because of COVID, we have all digital classes, but I have taken the labs and integrated them into breakout sessions or take home lab kits from the activity lessons that I have from this team. So I teach a Zoom lecture using the slide decks that I have been given, and I modify them as I choose. So students read, they come to class, we have about an hour review on that topic, and they do all their assignments through Top Hat, through the digital textbook, or in assignments that I give that I'll show you how I do that. Our class attendance has increased by 20% with my certified master gardeners who would normally trickle in and visit these classes, but because it's all digital and it's online, that attendance has increased. I can Zoom in any faculty from wherever we want. And this has really energized me instead of feeling as overwhelmed as I was before about teaching classes, especially in this current environment. It's really empowered me, and I think a lot of county coordinators who don't have a lot of resources on hand if you're off campus. So currently I'm teaching 13 interns, and I have 35 people as a focus group through this session. So I did high resolution images, but it looks like, so what did I do to get started? So I went through the book that I was initially given that everyone's talking about, and I scanned the chapters and I would highlight what needs changing. And that took me in all the chapters, it took me about 4 weeks, and you can see how many hours a week I dedicated to it. Then what I did is I went back to each chapter, found where I highlighted, took information from our state handbook or regional area, because Northern Idaho, where I am, is very different than Southern Idaho, and change the information to what we wanted and research-based information moving forward. That took a long time in the first 4 chapters, and I got the first 4 chapters done so I could start the class. And I'm currently continuing to do that through each chapter as I go. Go ahead. So as Allie was showing you, this is what it looks like. It's very easy to navigate. It shows you all your chapters, and on the image on the right is where it drops in if you choose to assign homework or assign PDFs that you want them to have at their disposal. That's all arranged, and you can decide how, for your organizational skills, how you want that to look. Go ahead. So then what I did is created a Google Doc syllabus with every link in the world possible to Top Hat allows you to create URLs for different assignments, so I can link them right into my syllabus and not have to have students search for those through Top Hat, and that's a time saver. They have enjoyed that, and it has all of their objectives in there from the book in Top Hat, and my evaluations loaded there as well. Go ahead, Kathleen. One tool I have really enjoyed exploring in Top Hat and the students have loved so far, of course, there's challenges in learning to upload things, but that's a lot of that is in the delivery and how you train your students in the beginning to navigate this. When you create an assignment, you can create it as questions, a discussion area, uploading files. One of my most recent assignments, I can allow them to upload a photograph where they snap their homework with their phone and upload that. They can upload a scan, a PDF, all sorts of documents, photographs. So that has been something that has been really interesting with this class, where I can just put all of their assignments in there since we're not doing in-person labs right now. Okay. So I have quite a few evaluations after each class that they have been gracious enough to fill out. Some of the questions that have come up, of course, are how does this relate to the different age demographics that we have? And I am pleasantly surprised at how everyone is learning the program along with myself. The key has been having an orientation class and videos to help them navigate this. Initially, at first, they were not crazy about a digital book only, but the more they use it and the more they use the material in real time, and they use the glossary that's built in and the plant toolbox, even though it's created for a different region in the US, they have really seen the value in having something that can be updated as research changes and having something with those additional perks in it. So they also believe that we need to be more accessible to the public and people interested in our programs to make our training more accessible. And this digital tool has done that for me. And so far, it's gone pretty well. So the question came in, is this unique to our county? Our state has not adopted it. I'm piloting it right now because I needed a tool moving forward. And I'll explain that here. We can go to the next slide. I feel more energized instead of feeling like I can't get things done. I'm just taking the reins, doing it myself, learning a new platform, and it's taken a lot of time, but I feel like it's valuable because once it's created, I don't have to reinvent the wheel like I was before with training sessions. It's done, it's captured, I can update it as I want, but I can actually deliver as a county coordinator a effective program without having agents around me or educators around me to need to deliver the information. So they can review all of the information I'm putting forth, but to be able to do that myself has been immensely helpful for me. I could probably train more often. I operate on a wait list up here to get into our program. And so having something that's done and I don't have to reinvent the wheel will allow me to do that. What I have realized that I need is resources from the university, be it time or funding for my assistant to help me with this program. And I'm happy to talk about that after the call too, after Q&As, if people want to ask some more questions about how that part is going and what other things I would need to move forward to support me. But the program, the Top Hat and their support has given me more than enough energy to move forward and learn it as I go and as I work through it each week to deliver my classes twice a week.
Thank you. Thank you, Cara. Thank you, Ali. Thank you, Dr. Bradley. And thank you, Kathleen. So I have a lot of questions, and I know a lot of other folks on the webinar have questions as well. Typically, we go until about 3 o'clock, but if anyone needs to jump off, you're fine to do that. We can stay on longer if needed so we can get through the Q&A. So I'll keep the recording on for now, and then if we get to a point where you all feel that we need to stop recording to ask candid questions, just tell me that and I'll stop recording. But I want to start by just kind of going back to the beginning, and I hope everyone on this call realizes that we're sort of talking about two things. The extension Gardner textbook has been made digital by North Carolina NC State University. So Dr. Bradley, please correct me if I'm wrong, but that is a great online tool that's available to anyone to use. And the second thing is that you have the Top Hat online platform that integrates with the handbook. So these are both extremely powerful tools that are you can use them as an extension agent in a different state. I personally, I spent some time going through the textbook, and I really appreciate the instructional design of it and how you've linked together concepts and educational content. So anyone who's looking to do instructional design, this is a great example to help you get started. Could you talk a little bit about the textbook? And did it start as a Master Gardener handbook and then it morphed into the digital capacity? And then what made you all think to kind of make it open access and available to anyone? And I also noticed that you didn't use Master Gardener in the title of the textbook. It was Extension Gardener. So could you speak to that?
And I'll just start with that. We realize that this is we think is a tremendously valuable collection of information in a curriculum that can be used and taught, and that it could be used in a variety of settings beyond the Master Gardener program. So it is used as the text in the Master Gardener program in North Carolina. We also use it in the prison system. We use it in other places. And so not having that in the title, it doesn't limit it to the Master Gardener program. It can be used much more broadly. And we started out with a plan to update our handbook. And as we were working on that, it just kind of evolved, became this Extension Gardener handbook, which is bigger than we dreamed. We did that with UNC Press to have a hard copy available. And the possibility of working with Top Hat and the beauty of Top Hat's system and allowing for the editing of the content made it possible for us to share this much more broadly, because you can do a search for NC and see where are the places that we have stuff that we thought was specific to NC and replace it with information specific to where you are, or just delete that. We didn't delete it all out because it's kind of a roadmap for people to know where you might want to put region specific information. So we now have it available online for free, and it's just the text. It's really ugly, but it's a fabulous tool for our Master Gardener volunteers to have at the desk if they want to search for the answer, because they can search online really quickly and get the information that they need. We have it available as an ebook and we have it available as a print copy. And now we're extraordinarily proud of working with Top Hat to have this available and available for you guys to share. I mean, some of this, Kathleen and I were drudging through getting all of the documentation that we needed for images or whatever else. We're thinking, well, Well, at least it only has to be done once, and a whole bunch of people can use it and take advantage of it. So we hope that it will make you can focus on the fun, interesting, important parts and not have to deal with getting the text boxes right and that sort of stuff. Does that answer, Nicole, what you were getting at?
It does. And as I said earlier, I hope everyone, if you haven't already seen the textbook, take a look at it because it's really impressive, especially all the images and the explanations, which also leads me to a question in instructional design in general is creating documents and online training and embedding links to publications and images. How are you all maintaining, active links and kind of monitoring it because your system is extremely robust. There's a lot of information in there.
So the links to all the plant database, that's all kept up to date automatically. So we don't have to manage that by hand. And we don't have a whole lot of embedded links. We have the whole rollover links that are the glossary that's in there, but those are not, that's not something that's going to go bad. We have in the plant database, we get information of anytime there's a bad link to go and fix it. So we're notified to keep that up to date. And that's something that our IT department feels really strongly about. And if we don't get to that right away, they're like, you have a broken link. So, and that's a great point because it's a living tool. So it has to be managed.
Do we have some other questions for our presenters today? At this point, I guess we can stop sharing the screen and if you want to turn on chat or video, feel free to. So this is a question for Lucy, Kara, Kathleen, and even Ali. If one of us was looking to start a program like this and use Top Hat, what kind of time frame would you recommend that we consider to get this project accomplished?
Kara, you may be in the best places. Or are you going to go?
Ali, why don't you give your perspective?
I can speak to training and onboarding from a Top Hat side to become familiar with the platform. I can't speak to how much customization or changes you would want to make. I'll let Kara speak to that. But in terms of training and onboarding, honestly, going through something similar to what I went through today, that familiarity can be done in as little as 2 or 3 sessions with our instructional designers. And usually that is ranged between 15 to 30 minutes in length. So the onboarding process is fairly quick. And as you can see, it's very, I want to say user friendly of a tool to use. So really there's only so much you can do with it. But again, that's more so for the training and onboarding side. And I'll let Kara go ahead with the modifications.
Yeah, so for me, like I said, I'm funded part-time. So and it's nice that it's in the winter. So I was able to wipe everything else off my schedule and dedicate my about 15 to 20 hours a week to this. Now, that's not what I expected when I started, but it's what I quickly learned I needed to do to get this rolling forward and ready enough to roll out my class January 1st. So I probably spent the first month at about 10 to 15 hours a week, just going through and removing where it said North Carolina and changing that to Northern Idaho, or finding a section, and there weren't a lot. The book has information of it for the region in North Carolina, but it's easy to find those areas, in the soils book where it's going to talk about North Carolina. And so you know what to update and you know what those topics are. I know that native plants would be a chapter I need to dedicate more time to updating. So I could look at it and easily search through the find tool on your internet browser and find words I wanted to change to be more relative to Idaho or sections. And then I would mark those. And then I went back after that and dedicated more time each week, about 20 hours over maybe 3 weeks, to finding the information I wanted to put in there and actually switching it to that information. And if that information I inserted had anything that needed to be cited, my instructional designer that I work with at that time weekly would do that citation for me. So I could just focus on putting Idaho content into the book as I needed. You know, I didn't want to make our handbook in Idaho completely irrelevant, but I also could tell very quickly that this Extension Gardener book is written as a textbook with objectives and clear information on explaining concepts. I don't, you know, as a handbook for Idaho, it's a great book, but it is not written in the way to easily have someone like me, who is not a teacher by nature, deliver content. And so it wasn't difficult, it's just time consuming. And so each week I will dedicate to updating the next chapter, adding in my assignments for the following reading assignments or interactive assignments or labs I've converted to assignments. And then I teach that week, and then I roll into the next chapter and the next chapter. So it's getting easier now that I'm spending less time on it now that I'm out of the first 5 or 6 chapters, which are those heavy content chapters, soils and botany, where we really spend a lot of time. So now it's moving forward a little bit quicker for me. Does that give everyone kind of a good concept of what you'd be in for in the beginning?
Yes, that's good feedback.
So,
And I do want to add, sorry, I do want to add one piece to that. Like if in some use cases, you may already have like an existing handbook that you want to have digitized and like imported into the platform. Let's say that's your scenario. We have a back-end team that can do that for you. It's what we did when we first started this project, and that process takes 2 weeks, and we can ingest, it's basically like a lift and shift and digitizing that material into the platform in that same state that it's in, and that's about a 2-week turnaround.
Yes, and I haven't done that yet. I haven't done that yet because I'm the only one in Idaho testing this out. I just said, let's grab the reins and let's go with it. And so if at the end of this, our state decides to adopt this as a platform or says, okay, this is great, let's move forward and get more faculty in to update this textbook and things like that, then we would absolutely digitize the Idaho handbook and make it easier to insert material from it.
And once you've done this, you're done, right? So you have updated it, and then next year when you teach, that's all done. So it's a one-time making it yours. Yeah. Just to clarify, Carl, when you were talking about not having objectives and making it hard to teach, you were talking about the Idaho handbook, not this handbook, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This handbook and the materials that they have given in the Google Drive that goes along with it has made me feel like I can easily take a PowerPoint that's already created, spend some time on it myself, inserting what I want, or what I do is go through the interactive questions that students are answering as they read. Right before the review, I'll look at my gradebook and see what points they're not understanding, and I put those right into my review lecture for the next day, and we can then evaluate that they have retained that information better. So using those tools has made me feel like I could absolutely teach this course with or without faculty, depending on how those extension appointments and funding changes, and have the tools to do so and feel more empowered to actually move our program forward than be at a standstill the way I felt earlier.
And I think long-term, you make a good point. You put in the chat box that you see transitioning this into a online course for the public. And so that could be an opportunity to, let folks besides Master Gardener volunteers take the course and be a revenue stream. I'm sure you can come up with a pricing system. So there's opportunities there. I had a question for Ali about taking an existing manual and basically putting it into the Top Hat format in a few weeks. Does that include creating assessments? Because most of our manuals have quizzes and Q&A at the end. is that something else that can be incorporated?
Yeah, of course, definitely. We have a turnaround through an offshore team that really takes care of building it all out. So as long as it's clearly articulated like what they're going to be doing, and that's something that I would work with each of you on to outline the scope of the project, we would then submit that as is. And if we want them to ingest material plus create assessments plus create quizzes, then I'm putting all three of those in, and they have different teams that they use to manage their own pipeline there. So I'm not worried about that, but they will create it all. And basically the more clear the instructions are, the more that they'll be doing within that period of time. And sorry, I saw one question in here that I can just quickly address. There's no cost to digitize any material. If there's something like 450 pages worth of material that you're writing, we can have that offline, because then we could publish that material basically for your students, and there could be some royalties that come back to the department or to the program as a result of that.
So do you currently have, I don't know, I don't know how to say it, like a license or anything with existing universities? And is there a way to find out if our university is working with you already?
So yes, we do. Like I personally cover Florida. So all my schools primarily are in Florida. And then I used to have the Southeast. So now I oversee, primarily working in Florida, but oversee all of the east of the United States, just on a support level. If you have, so for example, if I know there were about like 50-ish people here today, so I wouldn't be able to like spin up all, if we have partnerships with each one of them, but if there are, if we do have an existing relationship with them, if you were to search for, let's say, FIU Top Hat, for example, for Florida International, you'll see that we have a partnership with FIU on their website, and they would show it there that we're a partner of theirs. So there are quite a bit of partnerships that we do have all across the United States and in Canada as well.
Do we have any other questions for our panelists? For the North Carolina team, are you rolling this out now with all of your existing Master Gardener volunteers across the state, or not?
It's up to the agent in every county to decide how they want to teach their program. So it is offered as you know, an option for people. And we have agents that are teaching it. We just, I don't know, it's been a week or two that it's been up. So people haven't really had a chance to grab it and get going. But yes, the you know, agents who are teaching Master Gardener programs have access to use this as a tool.
Okay, any other questions for our panelists today about the Extension Gardener Handbook and Top Hat? All right, well, hearing none, I thank you all for being our panelists today, Dr. Lucy Bradley, Kara Carleton, Ali Kaba, and Kathleen Moore. Thank you all for being here. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to any of our panelists. We've had some requests to send out the chat box text, so I'll send that out along with the recording, a link to the PDF presentation, and our panelists' email, so you may reach out to them directly if you have additional questions. But your homework is to take a look at the Extension Gardener textbook that NC State has put out, and then let us know if you need any other help or assistance. And I appreciate everyone's time today. I learned a lot. I'm really looking forward to digging into this a little bit more. And there's great opportunities for training our Master Gardener volunteers and also the public, as Kara mentioned, that might be an option. So thank you. Have a good rest of your week.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Take
you.
care, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That
Bye-bye.
we were hoping was that, you know, they'd have an amazing horticulture department with a lot of specialists who helped us put together this handbook, and that we could share that, and that there might be states that don't have as